persons from the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information. I am Casey Akar, and for the next 2 hours or so, we will be engaging you to talk about this important program and also to get your feedback, to hear your questions, and to allay any concerns that you have about the program. This town hall is very important because, you know, students are, I believe, the most important among the important stakeholders in education. And we certainly cannot have this activity or this program implemented without having you engaged in this manner. So you're going to hear from us directly. I want to thank you all, those of you who are here in the auditorium this afternoon at the Excelsior High School, and of course those of you who are joining us via Zoom. We tend to begin our programs at the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information in a way that I believe is best, by ushering in the presence of the Lord. So now it is my pleasure to invite Mrs. Desmond Kennedy, who is the Acting Regional Director for Region 1, which is Kingston and St. Andrew. She said St. Andrew. Kingston and St. Andrew. So, Mrs. Kennedy, let us assume the posture for prayer.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Carr. Shall we pray? O Lord of our creation, God of our universe, God of peace and God of every possibility, we come bowing before you this afternoon because you have called us to a particular mission on earth. And that's the entire mission of building capacity among your people, empowering minds, and extending possibilities and reach. Father, we are congregated in this setting to discuss a program which you would have inspired us with. A program, Lord, that positions our children for further growth. A program, Lord, that is full of possibilities. And yet, Lord, we still need to have this deliberation. And so we invite you in our presence. Inspire our minds, inspire our thoughts. And Lord, I pray for the different speakers that will be speaking to our young people this afternoon. And Lord, and even as our people listen, Lord, we just pray that you would give them the desire, the unction to function, and to allow the deliberation to be so fruitful that we will leave here with well-inspired, well-thought-out discussions as we go forward to seeing the implementation of this program. We turn over everything now into your capable hands and ask that you will guide all our deliberations. And let us be grateful enough to give you all the honor and the glory you deserve. When all should have come to an end, we say thank you through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Thank you. So now we know all will be well. Thank you, Mrs. Kennedy. That's the Acting Regional Director for Region 1, which include Kingston and St. Andrew. November is an important month, and I want to ensure that I'm highlighting that, to use the opportunity to say to all parents out there, Happy Parent Month. We celebrate Parent Month and we recognize all the parents who are there to support their children along this journey of education. So all parents out there, if you've been really strong partners in education, and if you haven't, you've heard that it's an important process that you must get involved in. I want to say Happy Parent Month to every parent. I also want to acknowledge that it's Youth Month, and everyone in the auditorium, almost me included, and almost those people at the top there included, almost, we almost missed it. But if you're 15 to 29, your designation is youth. So I want to say to all of you, Happy Youth Month. I want to also say it's Community Month, it's Substance Abuse Awareness Month, and it's also Diabetes Awareness Month. So please make sure you're getting information about these important and critical areas, substance abuse and diabetes, all right? And I won't delay any further. It is my pleasure to invite Mrs. Maureen Dwyer to do the official welcome and introduction of the panelists. And Mrs. Maureen Dwyer is the acting permanent secretary.
Thank you, Moderator Carr, Ms. Casey Carr, Moderator and CEO of the National Parenting Support Commission, Honorable Fable Williams, Minister of Education, Youth and Information, Dr. Kassan Troop, Chief Education Officer Acting in the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information, Dr. Tamika Benjamin, National Mathematics Coordinator in the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information, Mrs. Dasmine Kennedy, Regional Director of the Region 1 in the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information, members of the Ministry's executive, education officers, all those online, agency heads, students, teachers, parents, Mr. Dean Roy, Broomfield, Principal of Excelsior. Hi. It is my pleasure to welcome you all to this very important town hall meeting, to update you and to answer questions that you may have on the 7 years sixth form pathway program. We're happy for this opportunity as a ministry to share with you, our students in particular, on the importance of this very important thrust by the ministry to gain you more time to focus on your lessons and to achieve as well as you can. And so, as Jamaica seeks to become a more globally competitive country, it is imperative that every effort is made to expand access to educational opportunities and relevant high-quality programs through learner-centered approaches. Our Minister, Honorable Fable Williams, will provide you with more details on the program. But in the meantime, let me acknowledge Dr. Kassan Troop, who is going to bring you the granular details on the program, how it will operate on the ground, as well as Dr. Tamika Benjamin, who is here with us. She's our tertiary support officer, and she's going to bring you some more information on how you can connect with the program and advance your education into tertiary. We are also pleased to have with us virtually Deputy Chief Education Officer, Ms. Dorrit Campbell, with responsibility for schools operation and school improvement services, Dr. Clover Hamilton Flowers, our Deputy Chief Education Officer Acting. She's the head of our core curriculum unit at the ministry, and Dr. Felicia Marshall, who is the head of tertiary, as well as other officers of the ministry. They are all online to serve you this afternoon in the queries, the questions that you may have. And so we have a lot to discuss. Let me welcome you again, and let's have a good afternoon.
Thank you for extending welcome and for introducing the panelists. I will now invite the Honorable Fable Williams, who is our Minister of Education, Youth and Information, and she will be speaking to you, about the policy that drives this important program. So we welcome now the Honorable Fable Williams.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Come on, Excelsior can do better than that. Good afternoon, everyone. Awesome. Let me acknowledge Ms. Casey Carr, our moderator for the afternoon. She's also the CEO of the National Parenting Support Commission. Let me acknowledge as well the Honorable Robert Nesta Morgan, who I know is joining us online. He's our State Minister at the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information. And of course, you heard just now from Mrs. Maureen Dwyer, our Permanent Secretary Acting at the Ministry. You will hear shortly from Dr. Kassan Troop, our Chief Education Officer Acting. Also, you will hear from Dr. Tamika Benjamin, who occupies a very important position, that of the National Mathematics Coordinator at the Ministry. Let me acknowledge Mr. Bloomfield, Principal, Excelsior High School. Thank you so much for accommodating us here this afternoon. Mrs. Stacy Witter-Bailey, Deputy Chief Education Officer Acting, Exams and Assessment Administration Services at the Ministry. Of course, our Regional Director, Mrs. Dasmine Kennedy, she prayed for us this afternoon. Let me acknowledge all the other members of the Ministry's Executive Management Team and our agency heads, all our students, our principals, teachers, parents, other educational stakeholders. Let me say again, a pleasant good afternoon. Thank you for coming out, you who are here physically, as well as those who are online, to participate in this town hall meeting with regards to the opportunities that the ministry has created for students who are exiting 5th form or grade 11 and thinking about their opportunities ahead of them. But first, let me say up front that there is no modification of the traditional 6th form or grades 12 to 13 CAPE program. CAPE subjects will continue to be your subjects of choice if you choose to do CAPE or your CAPE Associate's degree. So there is no modification of the traditional 6th form program. What we're doing instead is creating additional opportunities for those students who have decided that the 6th form CAPE program is not the pathway that they would like to go on. We want to create other pathways for them that is more in keeping with their aptitude, with their interests, and where they see themselves when they look out into their future. And we have to do this because when you look at how many students go on to the traditional program, it's only about 1/3 of the students who graduate 5th form or grade 11 go on to the traditional CAPE 6th form program. And so of the other students, and we graduate roughly 40,000 students at 5th form every year. So of the other 27 or so thousand, some of them may go on to, let's say, Excelsior Community College or other community colleges, but there's a good 1/3 of students for whom their future is uncertain as to what it is that they can do or want to do. And in the 21st century, we have to create opportunities, educational opportunities, for all our students, not just some of our students. We also, I just want to as well address issues that have emerged with regards to use of the term pathways. And I want to say to you, the term pathways, flexible pathways, alternate pathways are terms used in education globally. This is not a national thing. It's a global phenomenon. These are terms that when we speak to our international partners, these are the terms in which they speak. And as a matter of fact, UNESCO, International Institute for Educational Planning, just completed a major study on flexible learning pathways as part of a global research project. Jamaica was one of the 8 countries selected to participate in the project. The project was to see what Jamaica needs in order to implement programs to get to a target of at least 80% of Jamaicans participating in higher education. Right now, the reality is that only about 19% of Jamaicans aged 19 to 24 are currently enrolled in tertiary education or higher. When you look at the entire workforce of Jamaica, only about 15% of Jamaica's workforce has a tertiary or college education. And so, if we expect our economy to do significantly better, if we expect to have jobs that pay higher than these current jobs that we have, we must get our population more educated. When you think that 85% of Jamaica's workforce has not gone beyond high school, then it stands to reason why the economy is where it is and why our per capita income is hovering at about US $5,000 per capita. So we have to deal with this problem. It's here, now, it's urgent. And I've heard people say, why don't we put our resources into early childhood and primary? And I want to say to persons, we are doing that. We have strategies at the early childhood level to ensure that we do annual assessment of our students by the time they get to age 4, so that we know where they are in their learning in terms of early literacy and early numeracy. And then we can use their age 5 year to make the intervention. This program only started in 2019. We didn't do it for 2020 because of the pandemic, but we are going to ensure that annually going forward, we can do that. And so when we intervene during the entire year 5, our students will show up at primary schools better prepared. And so that's an activity that we're doing alongside the Sixth Form Pathways program. It's not one or the other. We have to work at all levels of the education system. Additionally, we're ensuring that in early childhood, we have more trained practitioners who understand what it is to interact with children at that level. And there will be ongoing personal and professional development for the practitioners there, all so that we can get children who are more ready for primary schools. In our primary schools this year, we are expanding off a pilot that we did a couple years ago or are doing to have specialist teachers in our primary schools. The tradition has been in Jamaica to have one teacher in the classroom teaching all subjects. So can you imagine if that teacher doesn't like you? You're going to be miserable, right? So we're introducing specialist teachers. So our primary school students will have access to more than one teachers throughout their life in a particular grade. We believe that will be more engaging, more exciting for the teacher and for the student. If you have a teacher who loves mathematics, they're going to teach you better than a teacher who doesn't really like mathematics but has to teach it. So specialist teachers are being employed in over a third of our primary schools, and next semester we'll add more and we'll add more until we have specialist teachers across all our primary schools. That will help our primary school students to be better prepared when they get to high school, because high school you're in an environment in which you have specialist teachers and you have to manage your own schedule and you have to manage a lot of different teachers, giving you assignments and so on. And if we prepare our primary schools early for that environment, we think they will do better. In our high schools, this is the initiative because we have students leaving now who are not prepared to go into the world of work. They're not yet prepared to go into the traditional sixth form program. So we have to create new avenues for them over the next 2 years so that when they leave, they are confident in the knowledge that they have gained, and they will be attractive to employers in the marketplace. So that's the message that I want to bring you this afternoon about the sixth form program. We are not going to do a lot of talking here. We want you to ask as many questions as you can to, get to the meat of the matter. It doesn't matter any detailed question that you have as to how it's going to work, where you register, all of that. This session is for you this afternoon to be able to ask those questions, about it and all the details about how it will work. So I'm going to leave you with that in terms of the sixth form program, but I also want to make an appeal to you, our high school students, to be vaccinated. Yes, you must have heard that 1,000 times already, but for those of you who haven't, this is the 1,001 time that you will hear this. It's important for you. We'd like our high school students to be vaccinated so that you can begin to return to school in earnest. I know right now we have allowed grades 11 through 13, those who are doing their exit exams, to go to their schools and to register and do labs and so, because of the deadlines that you're under, and we don't want you to miss those deadlines. But in order to bring students back into the face-to-face environment, we would like our students to get vaccinated. Many of you know that your schools are having vaccination blitz. I want you to ensure that you tell your parents about it so they can accompany you to the vaccination site. You can pre-register before you get there so that when you get there it won't take too much time. But we want you to do this for yourself, for your family, for your community, and because you are a citizen of Jamaica, you're a responsible citizen of Jamaica. So we're appealing to you to get out and be vaccinated. So I am going to leave it there because we want to allow as much time as we can for your questions. Thank you.
You would have heard from the Honorable Favour Williams, Minister of Education, Youth and Information. And what I heard in a nutshell is that there is a policy directive for inclusion. But the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information would have responded to ensure that there's inclusiveness. We want to make sure that every single child who enters the system is accommodated, is catered to. We want to ensure that there is space for that person to develop as an individual, as a learner. You heard comments about understanding a child's interests, a child's natural propensities, his own abilities, natural abilities. And then we also heard comments about preparing that child for the world of work. We understand that we have to have many options because we have many different kinds of people. Wouldn't you agree? And because we have people with different interests and different abilities, we want to ensure that there's a system that's responding to all the needs of all our children. That's what I heard. What I also heard, and I liked, was the fact that even from the primary school level, we're going to be looking at teachers who specialize in certain areas. And not only will that help with attainment levels, but it will also cushion the child who has now to matriculate or transition to high school, because high school transitioning is not easy. And show your hands if it were an easy process for you. You left grade 6 and you came and it was very easy. Show your hands. Right, there was a lot to adjust to. I remember, right, although mine might have been a longer time ago. By the way, I went to Westwood High School. I get every opportunity I get to say that, yes. The school with the Jippy Jappa hat. So, and it was a boarding institution, so the transition was not easy. What we're trying to do is to ensure that all our children feel comfortable, feel safe, and that we are responding to their needs. So we're looking at it from what we believe children need. And we're not trying to impose anything on you. This is a reason we have this town hall this afternoon, because it must not feel as if it's an imposition. We really want to include you in the conversation, and that is why we're going to open the floor now for questions. I want to encourage those of you who are online to also send in your questions as per usual. And those of you here, I know I'm looking at you. By the way, you look so nice. Did I say that already? Yes, really good. I didn't say it yet. You said no. But you're looking so nice. Yes, you look really nice to me. And we really I have not had this interaction with students in a little while. So I am soaking it all in. And I know you're just revving and you have all kinds of questions to ask. And that's why we're here. So let's go now to the phones, and we're going to open the floor now, certainly, for you to ask questions. Just to remind you that to my extreme left oh boy, am I going to embarrass myself? Is that purple? Burgundy? Burgundy? In the burgundy dress. That's Dr. Tamika Benjamin, and she is a tertiary support officer. Beside her in pink is Dr. Cassandra Troop. She's acting chief education officer. So any problems in schools, call her, right? And then to her right in burgundy, gosh, red, it's Mrs. Maureen Dwyer, and she's permanent secretary acting. And of course, beside her in purple, I'm sure, is our Minister of Education, the Honorable Fable Williams. So you have quite a number of persons here who, and by the way, we do have persons online. We have Dr. Clover Hamilton Flowers, and we do have Mrs. Dorrit Campbell. Is she online? And they're also here to support, and they're both Deputy Chief Education Officers. So we have gathered a group of technicians and persons who are adept who will be able to answer your questions. So here we go. Is there anyone who wants to get the ball rolling from the audience? Any questions? Clear as mud. You're smiling. I can see that you're smiling, yes. Okay, there is a young man who is standing.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, panelists. Good afternoon, students. Good afternoon, Jamaica. The policy presented by the ministry has great potential. We, the students of Jamaica, share the optimism of the ministry as it regards to its intention. However, we are concerned with the current realities that they are not capable of managing such a massive and instantaneous decision. Currently, we have traditional schools that are under-resourced, much to manage this change that will be implemented. Will there be a phase-in of the program, or will it happen instantaneously? What about the schools that are under-resourced? Where will this funding come from? Thank you.
Thank you. May I have your name? May I have your name?
Malachi Alwood, the head boy of Kingston College.
Malachi?
Malachi Alwood.
I'm a proud mommy, Malachi. Okay, thanks for getting the questions, Roland. It's quite a question. You don't want him to repeat?
Repeat the question.
Oh, Malachi, could you repeat the question? No? All right, so Malachi, if I am hearing you correctly, you're concerned. So you did say that you are supportive with concerns. And if I hear you correctly, you can correct me. You have concerns that there are many traditional high schools that, in your opinion, are under-resourced.
Non-traditional.
Non-traditional, thank you. So there are many non-traditional high schools, in your opinion, that are under-resourced. And so whilst you have enthusiasm and you're supportive of this initiative, you're wondering, would it not be prudent to have those schools resourced as opposed to bringing on another enormous program, saying what you said, that will call for so many additional resources?
Yeah.
Is that it in a nutshell?
Yes, I am.
Thanks.
Exactly.
Thank you.
I think that we should address the current realities and issues that already exist before moving such an instantaneous and massive decision.
All
to the
right.
floor.
So, okay. Thank you, Malachi. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that question. I know that that's on the minds of many persons. And I know that what I'd like you to know is that we at the ministry, we understand exactly the status of each of our schools across the island. There are 171 of them. And from time to time, or at least annually, we do take the census and we understand how many spaces they have and what their capacity is and so on. And so we know that not all our high schools have the physical space to accommodate our students for this opportunity. And that's why we've already entered into agreements with some of our other institutions, or community colleges, private institutions, to facilitate the physical space for our students to be, right? And we are going to start with those institutions that see the vision and are ready, and we will start with those students who understand what the difference that this program will make for their lives. So we will start with them. The government is providing some resources to these institutions. Grants will be given to them to help in terms of materials that they need to buy. The staff will, of course, be paid by the Ministry of Education. And so we're not just leaving schools, we're not just saying schools start. We understand the limitation in the system, and that's why we're making arrangements to accommodate the students. We have almost 40,000 students leaving the fifth form. I told you maybe a third of them may go on to the traditional sixth form CAPE program. Others may find programs, if they can afford it, at different institutions, right? But there is a full 1/3 that will not be in the CAPE program. They will never connect with a program that exists out there. We want to ensure that they too, all of the cohort, that you have the opportunity for education. The crisis is now. It's not a year from now or 2 years from now. It's now. You have students who are leaving for whom they're just going to go home and sit at home, and they may do a little program here or there. They may learn a little skill here or there. We can't build the kind of economy that we want to build without having that solid educational background. And I read the numbers for you earlier on. When you look at our workforce, 80% of our workforce hasn't gone beyond high school, right? We want to build a more robust economy. We want to be able to attract jobs into Jamaica. Think about this argument. Let's say we get all of our fifth formers into the additional 2 years, and we're able to produce students who graduate at age 18 plus, with solid degrees, accredited degrees. That makes for a better sell to international companies to come in, because they know they have a base of educated employees. But when we're only able to tell them that maybe we have 5,000 or so, it's not as attractive for them to come to Jamaica. They want to know that they have a highly educated workforce, and the prospects of more children coming into the workforce, or more students coming into the workforce.
Question. We appreciate your perspective, and we do appreciate your intentions. We, the students of Jamaica, would like to know where will the funding come from?
Where will The funding comes from? Well, The Ministry of Education, Youth and Information has a budget. And you may not know this, but the budget of the Ministry of Education is roughly about 20%, almost. It varies anywhere from 17 to 20% of the national budget, right? Call it 1/5 of our national budget goes into education. I don't believe that we have optimized enough the education sector. There's reallocation that will be done to ensure that we properly finance the sixth form program, and I can ask Dr. Troop if she wants to go into greater details in terms of exactly what will be provided to schools to help to facilitate and ensure that this program is successful. Dr. Troop.
And while Dr. Troop is making her way to the lectern, I know there are 4 other questions on the floor. We'll get to you immediately after.
Thank you, Minister. Good afternoon to my fellow panelists and to our students. It's so refreshing, Minister, to hear our students, challenge us and to want to know more about what we do. And I see that there's a purple power down there, right? So yes, as Minister indicated, we have done some analysis. This is not something we just got up today and announced. The Ministry of Education has been implementing several programs. So you are familiar with our Career Advancement Program. You would be familiar with our Center of Occupational Studies. And you would be familiar with our traditional sixth form. Minister indicated that UNESCO included Jamaica's model of flexible learning pathway in an international study and found that our model has been very, very instructive and visionary in design, and recommended in that research study that we integrate what we do rather than have parallel structures running which carry both benefits. There would be strengths and merit in pulling it all together. So over the years, we have been funding additional access for some of our students who have been accessing their programs outside of the regular sixth form program. So that funding is available and will be brought into the integrated approach. In this model, it therefore means that we are also capitalizing on opportunities outside of the high school structure. So we have a robust tertiary sector that has underutilized spaces. When we did the analysis to lead into the integration of this program, we found that there were 20,000 students who could have been accommodated in our tertiary institutions that are not being accommodated. And so we started the discussion in 2019 to bring the parallel programs into one. And I must report to you that in 2020 academic year, even during the pandemic, we started the initiative of the integration. We had over 6,000 students who never had access to a traditional space, accessing sixth form through 23 of our tertiary institutions. And I'm proud to report that during the pandemic, these students were able to continue their program of study, and we have over 78% of those students returning to their program of study. So what we are sharing with you today is not entirely new. It's been in the history of the ministry since 1968. So we have the experience of sixth form. We have been running the parallel program since 2010, and we moved into the associate degree programs in 2016, and we have pulled all those experiences into one. I know that our budget can support. Our minister, when she joined us, said to us, I need to take this through the rigor of our cabinet. And we went through the policy, we did the research, had the conversation at the policy level. It went through the rigors of the committee, and our cabinet approved, which gave us the authority today to be having this conversation with you. Now, for us to get the cabinet submission, we would have to prove that we can underwrite this program of opportunity for our boys and girls. And so the government is satisfied, our minister is satisfied that we can carry this program in your best interest. It means that 27,000 students who exited our schools last year have an additional opportunity to build their own agency and to develop their own lives. That's what this is about. It's a human life. It's a human capital investment that we are looking at, and it is something that has to be done now, because we can't wait for another 27,000 students to have nowhere to go. It is our responsibility. Jamaica ratified the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child. We also have a Child Care and Protection Act, and both advocate for the right to an education. And therefore, you have the right to this opportunity that we are providing, and we have a responsibility to remodel our programs, remodel our budget, to give you the right to stand competitively in the global space. And this is what this is about. And so we will be able to support our schools in expanding their opportunities. But the good thing is that if it is that your school right now cannot accommodate an additional set of students, all we are saying, we need to help those students to find their path in a mapped tertiary institution to access their program of study and to become competitive. So we have the budget, we have realigned it, we'll be working through our institutions to have the intimate conversation to see what else will they be able to offer this year. What about their labs that they need to develop? And we will put each school on a pathway, on a trajectory of improvement as we continue to make sure that our students are attached and are developing themselves. Thank you.
Thank you. I hope that response satisfied. You're satisfied by that. So I know we have 4 other questions, 4 persons on the floor. Go ahead, please. No, we're not hearing.
To the Honorable Minister Favour Williams, other distinguished guests, students and Jamaica, a good afternoon to you all. My name is Philip McLegon Dixon, the Student Council President of this institution. Over the last 2 years, many Jamaican students have been unaccounted for, some of whom are being targeted for the new sixth form program. If the government could not find these students for the past 2 years, what strategy is being put in place to not only find these students, but to ensure that they are fully engaged with this new initiative?
Very good. Is your name Philip? Philip Dixon? Thank you for your question. Minister?
Okay. So the pandemic would have caused major dislocation in the education sector. As you all know, you have been at home for the most part of 18 months now. For those of you who have devices and have connectivity, that's the way you've been able to engage the education sector during the course of the pandemic. For others who don't have a device or connectivity, we ensure that we provided audiovisual lessons, TV, radio, and we ensure our students got their books during the course and they were in touch with their teachers. Unfortunately, there were a number of students at all levels of the education system who, for one reason or the other, they were just not engaged. They didn't sign on, their parents didn't pick up their books, and we were not sure if they were even watching television when the lessons were on. And so as we begin to get back into the face-to-face environment, you will hear a lot more about our yard-to-yard Find the Child initiative, and we will be going literally yard-to-yard across Jamaica to understand what's happening in the family, why a particular child has not been in school, they've not been online, and the teacher just cannot find them. So we will pull that information together, and if there's intervention to happen, we will. We have agencies at the ministry and other ministries that we can call on to help our families. But that is the major effort that we will undertake, not just for our primary schools, but for our high schools as well, because we want to engage all our children in this educational pursuit. And so you will hear a lot more about our Yard to Yard Find the Child initiative.
Thank you. And we're on to the next question.
Panelists, Madam Moderator, students, other attendees, and Jamaica, good afternoon. My name is Victoria Lewis, and I am a senior prefect at the Excelsior High School.
Put it just a tad closer, yes.
My name is Victoria Lewis, and I am a senior prefect at the Excelsior High School. I have two questions, but I'll begin with the one regarding the digital divide. Now, one of the major causes for concern throughout COVID-19 in relation to education is the fact that there are a lot of students that don't have access to devices currently. Now, why wouldn't funding, because you spoke to the fact that 20% of the budget as a whole is allocated towards education. So
I think you're slipping again. Right.
Is this better?
Yes, that's better. Thank you.
So I heard that 20% of the budget goes towards education. And what I would like to know is why wouldn't more of that funding be given to acquiring tablets for the students that don't have them? Because you were speaking to the fact that students are unprepared at the CSEC level to go out into the working world. But as it stands for the past 2 years, there are certain students in this country that have not had access to devices, have been unable to get in contact with their teachers for one reason or another. So that's my question. Why wouldn't funding have been directed there and this introduction of the mandatory sixth form be postponed maybe a year or two when we would have better resources for the students?
Okay, so if I'm hearing you correctly, you're wondering why not use, since 20% of the budget is allocated to education, why not use the current resources to fund the purchasing of tablets to give to the current cohorts of students and then delay this program for another 2 years? Is that what you're asking?
Somewhat. I'm just asking why wouldn't that have been prioritized slightly over the introduction of CAPE because the students are underprepared.
Right. So it's similar to what was asked before. So you're saying that the priority really should be given to what the deficits are now, and in your mind, at least what you're saying, one of those deficits is the access to tablets and so on.
Yes,
all right, thank you. Thank you for that question.
So the 20% or so of the national budget that goes towards education, remember that it pays all our teachers across the education system, and within our primary and high schools we have some 25,000 teachers. It pays for the infrastructure at schools, it pays for a number of different things, path lunches to our students, transportation for path students in rural Jamaica, help with exam fees, a whole host of things it paid for. Nevertheless, the government over the last year and a half spent, I would say, almost $2 billion to secure devices. We have three different programs to get devices into the hands of our students. First, there's a government procurement for devices for students who are on PATH. And we prioritize the PATH students because they are the most vulnerable financially. And so we have been rolling out that program first. There was a purchase of 40,000, and that would have been handed out to students in our primary schools. Then we started on our high schools, and we are actually purchasing the laptops, or either we did it already, some laptops for our students in grades 11 to 13. And so that program will continue annually to ensure that all our PATH students can get devices. Layer on top of that is another program called the Own Your Own Device. And that program, through that program, the government has made available to 36,000 needy families vouchers valued at $20,000 towards the purchase of a device. When I last checked the numbers, we were approaching some 30,000 families that would have received the voucher and would have gone to an approved vendor and redeemed that for a device. But we didn't stop there. We launched another program called One Laptop or Tablet per Child. And this was an appeal to corporate Jamaica, to individuals, to members of our diaspora to come on board and help us. And to date, I think, don't hold me to this number, but I think that when last I looked, we were over 30,000 devices just from donations from Jamaicans here and abroad who opened their hearts to our students, and those have been distributed across Jamaica. Is there still a gap? Yes, there is, and we will continue to work until we fill that gap and all our students have a device. Additionally, we know that the device is just one part of this big initiative. Connectivity, affordable data plans are other variables that we have to consider. And for the past 6 months, I have been a part of a ministerial task force between the Ministry of Education, Ministry of Science, Energy and Technology, the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, and the private sector to look at how we can bring broadband connectivity to our schools. And while we're doing that, the Ministry of Science, Energy and Technology is looking at how they can bring more Wi-Fis into communities. So we've already done the research. We know exactly the adequacy of the bandwidth that each school across Jamaica needs, and we started that process. Here at Excelsior, they were one of the first set of schools to get this broadband in their school. I'm not sure if we're complete on the implementation yet, but that's just to show you that this isn't just talk or announcement. We're actually in the implementation phase, so that when you walk into your school, whichever classroom you're in or wherever you are on the school compound, and you have your device with you, you should be able to access the online world. So we recognize that the COVID-19 has forced us to adopt, embrace technology, and we are running the fastest mile we can run to ensure that our students have the devices so they have access to education, really 24 hours per day, 7 days a week, 365 days per year. But we're also addressing the issue of connectivity as well for our students, because we know that this is the 21st century. It's the century of technology, and you have to be equipped with those skills so that when you go into the world of work, into entrepreneurship, or if you continue into tertiary education, you will have the skills needed to be that citizen of Jamaica that we want you to be, high performing in every aspect of your lives.
Thank you, Minister Williams. Yes, continue.
Okay, so thank you. My second question is in regards to the teachers, because in doing my research for this town hall,
Yes.
yeah, I noticed that between September 2019 and February 2020, about 390 teachers resigned, and that's not including teachers that would have been otherwise unavailable for their classes. Now, with the onset of COVID-19, naturally that has complicated the issue, because you have connectivity issues, you have all sorts of different things impacting teachers in their day-to-day lives. With the onset of the mandatory sixth form program, this would mean that there would be far more students enrolled in sixth form, and that would put an even greater strain on the teachers. So my question is, what resources, what is the approach that is going to be taken to ensure that we either get more teachers on staff or better equip them for the influx of students?
Okay, Crystal. That's your name, Crystal?
Victoria, Miss.
Victoria. Okay, Victoria, thank you. So what I'm hearing is that you did some research, and your research revealed that over 300 teachers have resigned since the onset of COVID. Is that what you're saying? Have left the system? And now you're concerned, so not only are you concerned about attrition of teachers, but you're also concerned that with the implementation of this program, we mightn't have enough teachers, or the current cohort of teachers will be burdened because they have additional work. This is what you're saying? And so you're wondering how what?
I'm asking what is the approach that's going to be taken to ensure that the teaching staff is adequately equipped to handle the influx of students.
So you're saying that teachers will definitely have additional work, and you want to know what resources will be provided as they take on the additional duties. And this is all right.
Go ahead, Dr. Chu. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. So Victoria, excellent question. I see that you have done some research.
She did her research, yes.
And she is concerned about her teachers. So Victoria, I want you to know that the movement of teachers is a global issue. It's not just a Jamaican issue. And so all education systems are required to pivot and to treat with this. 2 years ago, the Ministry of Education had a similar situation where we had to provide a support for our schools when we saw that a significant number started to move away at one particular time in point. And what we did then was we did an assessment of the system to determine the areas of specialization that would have been short in the system. And we used that information to take some decisions. One, we looked at the teachers who were slated to retire and their skill set, and engaged them in a conversation to extend their services based on their expertise. So that's an opportunity available to us now. We also looked at those teachers who retired but are still active. They're familiar with this national standards curriculum and would make themselves available. We offered those persons an opportunity on a temporary contract to come back, and so the schools were able to avail themselves. We took another approach where we looked at our teachers' colleges and we looked to see those areas of shortage, and we launched some scholarships so we could pull persons who have the proclivity or those natural knack in certain skill sets and subject areas to come into our teachers' colleges, and we have those programs running. Tamika can tell you later about how much money we are spending on that, and we are monitoring those persons. And those persons, when they access the scholarship, they are committed to a period of service in our country before they can migrate and apply their services elsewhere. The beauty about this pandemic, and as I say it this way, because in every challenge there's always a seed of opportunity. This has pushed us to even think differently, to remove our mental space from the brick and wall restrictions, to see teaching and learning differently. And this is what is happening in the international space. So you have a good teacher here that you love and is doing very well. I know you have a nice, robust math program here at Excelsior. We, the Ministry of Education, we are moving to put systems in place to access that teacher and to make sure that students in several spaces can benefit from that teacher at the same time. That's the beauty of the technology. So a teacher has to be seen differently. So we are looking at our Master Teachers program. We are expanding that too. And we have a number of persons who are already in that program and are being trained to deliver teaching and learning experiences from a remote space. And we are going to be carrying that in several spaces at the same time, benefiting from the best of the skill set that we have in Jamaica. This is what is happening in the international space. What we are also doing intimately in each school is to look now at how many students they will be taking on if they have the capacity to, because remember, as Minister said, we are starting with who want to start now, and we have not asked our secondary institution to increase their capacities at this time. When we launched this program, we did not advise our principals to take on additional students because we know that they may not have the physical space now. What we said, we want the students who may not be able to stay in your space to be guided towards another space where he or she can access that learning, and we provide some support for that student. So these are the facilities that we have in place. We'll be developing, just yesterday we had the Arizona State University with us, looking at how we are going to be expanding our media center at our media services unit, where we're going to revolutionize content development, content production, and content distribution, so you can have seated and guided learning. This is a new thrust, where you don't need necessarily a teacher over you, but more so a facilitator. But you will now be provided with access to learning materials at your leisure, where you can start to build your own knowledge and start to probe with your teachers for the technical areas. This is how learning is now being remodeled. And so Jamaica has to align itself with the 21st century thrust, and this is what the flexible pathways bring into the space. And so those are some of the facilities we will be bringing in. We're going to be having discussions. We have started those already. As I said, just last year, we had over 6,000 students accessing a space in a tertiary institution that we supported, and these students are back on a track for their associate degree, and we can't wait to boast and celebrate with them. And we have new students this year. Right now, I can tell you, 1,250 students have already indicated to us that they are moving into the teachers' colleges to pursue their degrees in education. Under the Sixth Form Pathways program, we are providing support for the first 2 years of that program. Students would not have had that opportunity before, and now they do. So this is the kind of system we are building out for our young people. This is what you deserve, and this is what we are bringing to the table. And of course, it is not static, it's not fixed. We are listening to you, and we are ready to make the changes, as you are the creators and the ideators now, and we have to listen to you. So that's why we are having this sit down.
Thank you, Dr. True, and thank you as well for all the questions that have been asked. I'm going to go to the online space, and then I'll return to the persons on the floor. So I have a comment here from someone by the name of Denny Wells on Facebook, who is saying, love this program, looking forward to all the students who will benefit, enough respect. Another question, well, that was a statement. A question now, what happens if I do not want to go to sixth form at the high school that I attended for years, for 5 years?
Go ahead, Dr. King. Excellent question. So within the framework that we have been sharing with our principals, students have the opportunity to pursue sixth form at another high school as you normally do. So in the regular scheme of things, our high schools have the opportunity to utilize about 5% of their spaces to other students of other high schools. That facility has been maintained. We're talking about flexible learning pathways here. We would never want to remove that. So you may start off at Excelsior and you want to become a Fortis, and you apply, and your principal, the principal of Kingston College may give you an opportunity to join that fraternity. And so you can do that. That opportunity is still there. In the event that you complete your grade 11 program and you did well in your CXC and you want to transition into a teacher's college, you also do have that opportunity. You don't have to stay in your sixth form program at your high school. You can access your 2 years at your tertiary institution unhindered. We're not going to stop you. If it is that you have your qualifications for UTech or for UE, you move into those programs unhindered. We are not going to stop you. So those facilities are built into the program. If you want to go to any other tertiary institutions for that matter, into a recognized, accredited program, we will support you. What we want to know is that you are somewhere, not just you finish grade 11 and you sit down without no certification, no skill. Our minister just alluded, the data is now showing us that 68.2% of our prime working age population, that's 24 to 54, They are without academic certification. There's no way the Ministry of Education can sit down knowing this. We have a responsibility, and that's what we are stepping up to.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Troop. We turn our attention now to the young man in the audience.
Good afternoon, everybody, ladies and gentlemen, and Jamaica at large. I am Shaquille Smith, a 12th grade student at the Excelsior High School.
Put the microphone a little closer, please.
Okay. I am Shaquille Smith, a 12th grade student at the Excelsior High School. I must first say I am in agreement with the Pathway program and can see where it may be of benefit to other social issues in society. I would like to know the plans being implemented for students of some non-traditional high schools who may not be academically able to take on subjects at the CAPE level.
Very good
Thank you.
Very good question. And Dr. True or Minister? Yes. Yes.
Okay, for those students.
Could you please, Minister's mic is on?
Are you hearing?
Yes, we're here.
Okay, so for those students you're saying who are not academically inclined, who don't want to take on the CAPE program, we have designed 2 additional programs, Pathway 2 and Pathway 3. Pathway 2 would be the technical program, right? And Pathway 3 would be for those students who would have completed 5th form or grade 11 with no CXC or 1 or 2, no CSEC or 1 or 2 CSEC subjects. We will take those students in and we will help you as well to find out what it is that you want to do. And if during that period of time you find your footing and you want to do some CSEC subjects, that will be accommodated. Who knows? A lot of students are late bloomers. When they turn 16 and going on 17, suddenly they have a burst of something. And they begin to see that they're understanding what the teacher was teaching them a whole lot more than they were when they were younger. So we don't want those students to lose out. We want them in the system as well so that we can help them. And that's why we created these 2 other programs. So think of the CAPE program as Pathway 1. And then think of the technical program, Pathway 2. And then on Pathway 3, it will be like a generalist approach for the students. As to the particular subject areas, Dr. Troop, if you could drill down a little bit more into describing the programs.
As you have said, there are 3 pathways, as Minister indicated, and we are retaining what you are accustomed to, doing your CAPE certificates, or your CAPE diploma, or your CAPE associate degrees. So you know CXC has moved into offering your associate degrees, and you know that you have to do a minimum of what, 7 units of CAPE, including your Com Studies and your Caribbean Studies, to get your associate degrees. So I don't want you to start or to stop at just doing 1 or 2 units of CAPE. We are remodeling the program so you can also leave your traditional 6th form program with a CAPE associate degree, which has been aligned to the bachelor's program in our university, which will reduce the number of years you now spend in university to complete your 1st degree. So that's built in. In addition to that, as Minister said, we have expanded your pathway as well to add the City and Guilds Engineering Diploma, which is an advanced diploma that you can take with your industrial technique program that you do in CAPE, and do a dual certification, leaving high school with a distinction or a designation as an engineer technologist. So you can now be called a tech ed tech. So you write that behind your name, leaving high school. We have expanded your suite to offer you that. We have also expanded your suite to offer you the associate, the occupational associate degrees. So you may not want to do a classical, traditional associate like the Cape. Now you have the opportunity to do something in agro-processing, in commis chef, anything that you are technically tactile in education that you want to do. That program has been expanded to include 21 different occupational associate degrees that were never offered to you. So now under the Sixth Form Pathways program, that is available to you. So you have been enriched under the traditional program. Under the Pathway 2, which is a technical program, as Minister indicated, you may have done your CSEC and you may not have accomplished 5 or more CXCs, and so you would not have had the chance to move into the traditional Sixth Form. You are now given an opportunity to complete additional CSEC in your areas of specialization as per your career choice. You are now offered an opportunity to do your CAPE, additional 1 or 2, depending on your competence at that level, because we don't want to give you too much to do. You are also offered the opportunity to do your technical and vocational studies, level 2 or level 3 in the different subject areas, be it electrical installation, be it carpentry, woodwork, be it motor vehicle repairs, all of those technical and vocational areas. We offer those in several of our schools, and you get your level 2 or level 3. We have also expanded that to include the CVQs. Now the CVQs are applicable across the Caribbean countries. So you can get your certificate in the NCTVET or CVQ, which, I must reiterate, those certifications are workforce standard ready. So when you get that, you are telling the workforce that you are ready to work. That's what those certifications do. So they are not certification that you just build on and move on to a bachelor's. This certification in NCTVET and CVQ is telling the employer that you're applying to do that you are ready to work, because they are aligned to the workforce standards, and the CVQ are aligned to the Caribbean standards across the practical area. So you can move into Trinidad and work and earn according to your skill set. You can move into the Bahamas, because that's what is happening with the CVQs across. And the good thing, the CVQs are offered by CXC, our examining bodies, for you. So there's parity of esteem in the program. And we want you to understand that we have thought that through. And of course, when you do your level 2 and level 3, it puts you on a path to move to your level 4. So a student who accomplishes or attains a level 3 in CVQ or NCTVET level, or the NCTVET level 2 or 3, that child can now move to do another tier for another year. And a level 4 in the NCTVET or the CVQ equates to an associate degree. So in additional year, that child has parity and can compete with any student that has a CAPE associate degree. You're equal in standing, but you would have taken different pathways. The child who goes into the general pathway has CXC opportunities, has City and Guilds opportunities, and again has the NVQJ and the CVQ opportunity for certification, which again tells the employer that he or she is workforce ready in that skill area, can move across the Caribbean and work, can move to the level 3 and get an associate degree in another year. What is good about the pathways, again, is that they are flexible, so you can complete the technical pathway and you can move into the classical or pathway 1 at the end of the first year based on your attainment or your achievement in your pursuit of study within that pathway. So that's the kind of excitement that we are bringing to the school environment for our learners. So you can move across, you can be enriched by what we have to offer, and you are more ready to acquire higher levels of certification, and you are more ready for the world of work. So those are some of the opportunities. And I can lay out, Minister, just give me a minute to just talk about some of the new programs that we have in the pathways. We have an associate degree in agriculture production and supervision, agri-food processing, allied healthcare, beauty and wellness, baking and pastry operations, business process outsourcing, construction site management. So if you are so inclined, there's an associate degree for you culinary operations, there's an associate degree for you. Executive housekeeping, fitness management. These are some new areas that are emerging. We have an associate degree for you. We have meat, poultry, and seafood fabrication. There's a program ready for you. We have a motor vehicle repairs associate degree ready for you. We have plumbing technology associate degree, and I will leave it there.
Thank you, Dr. Troop. We will certainly be sending all of these to your institutions so you'll be more aware of the options that are available. Of course, CVQ is the Caribbean Vocational Qualifications for all the persons who might not know what CVQ means. All right, so I have another, actually I want to go to Daniel Campbell. I gather he has to leave. So Daniel Campbell, you had a question? Okay. All right, so we're going now back to Facebook. There's a simple question here. What's the age limit? My child graduated on August 20, 2021, and it was difficult to get her in a school to do her CAPE as her high school is only taking students with grades 1 and 2. I finally got her in a school, but had to pay $37,000. I am a single mother. What help can I get? And this is Kasian on Facebook. So there are two questions. What's the age limit? And then there's a question about what help is available for someone who might not be able to afford fees.
We go up to age 18.
All right, so up to age 18, you're expected to be.
Right, and a child like that case here who has just completed fifth form, we have a space for that child. So I'm going to encourage mommy to just go to the regional office. In each parish or in each region, we have a regional office. And I am asking you to just go there. We have education officers there. We have our regional directors, and somebody will attend to you. If it is that your high school is saying that we don't have a space for you, just visit that regional office. We will attend to you, and we will just look at your attainment in your subject areas, discuss with you your interest areas, and we will map you to a tertiary institution so you can access your learning. As I said, we have over 5,000 students who have returned and are doing just that today, and that program is available for you, mommy. Just reach to your regional office, and I'm making an appeal to all other students out there who may be trying to find a space. Just reach out to your regional office. We will do the work and make sure that you have access to the program to enable your future.
Thank you, Kasan. When is the mandatory sixth form program set to come in effect? When is the mandatory sixth form program set to come in effect?
Hearing me?
Yes, we're hearing Minister.
It is set to come into effect this school year. We are already taking registration, and as I said earlier on, we will begin with those students who see this opportunity as something that will help them to fulfill their potential, and we will begin with those institutions that have the same vision that we have. Of course, as we move along, we will work with others, because we'd love all of our institutions to be on board. We want all of our grade 11 students to consider this program. So it is beginning this year.
Thank you, Minister. I believe Damelia is saying, and she's on YouTube, I believe the mandatory designation to this program is too sudden. Students should be counseled based on their career path by their teachers, and if the sixth form pathways program is necessary for them, then they should be introduced into the program. So that's a comment to which the response is, Minister Damelia says it's too sudden, and she believes that students should be counseled into a career path, and then if it's necessary, that's when they should be introduced to the Sixth Form Pathways program. What do you say to that, Minister?
Okay, what I would say to that is, and I'll reference what Dr. Troop said earlier on, that Sixth Form has existed for a long time in Jamaica. The issue is we've only had one pathway in Sixth Form. We are creating additional pathways for our students so that they can access grades 12 and 13 education. We will begin with those students who see the value in this program right now. As others see it and they come on board, we know that the program will expand. We have done a pilot of it last year during the pandemic. Almost 6,000 students registered and made their way through the school year last year during the pandemic, and 78% of those same students are continuing into grade 13 on either Pathways 2 or Pathways 3. So what we would like you to take away from here tonight is that these opportunities are available for you. If you are so inclined in terms of wanting to do your CAPE, we are not modifying, we're not changing that at all. It will exist in the same format. It's always existed for as many years as it has existed. We are creating two other pathways, Pathways 2 and Pathways 3, for students so that they can become more skilled to enter the world of work, tertiary education, entrepreneurship, or wherever their dreams will take them. So again, we're starting with those institutions that have indicated that they want to come on board, and those students who see the vision and want to take advantage of these next 2 years to ensure that they are workforce ready.
Thank you, Minister. And Daniel Campbell, are you ready? The floor is yours. Oh, that's you?
Yes.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Daniel Campbell, immediate past head boy of the Norman Manley High School. I have a question to the minister in regards to 2021 high school graduates. We were not met with the mandatory Sixth Form Pathway program. So unfortunately, we graduated this year, and I must commend the mandatory effects of the program, because it is indeed a good effort being made by the ministry. In regards to 2021 graduates in the Sixth Form Pathway program, question for students who throughout grade 10 and grade 11 who are 2021 graduates who were left on the other side of the digital divide and had lots of difficulties in online learning and merging and getting into classes. And some persons who did not defer and actually CXC examinations, but did not pass all these examinations. And some who were not signed for the approved amount of 5 CSEC subjects. These students who will be going into these tertiary institutions to do the pathways that is being offered. I know the government only pays for 2 years. The scholarship only covers for 2 years. For students who are doing a pathway, for instance, a pathway 2, who is doing an NBQJ certificate course and a City and Guilds examination course, this is a 1-year course. To merge into an occupational associate degree means that they would be in the Sixth Form Pathway program for 3 years. Some of these persons are poor. They are not able to pay the amount of money that majority of these tertiary institutions are offering. Will the government be subsidizing the amount for the 3rd year, or is it just only for 2 years, seeing such good effort is being offered to our lovely nation of youths?
Thank you, Daniel. You looked so pleasant. Unfortunately, I didn't hear most of what you said, but I know you had a lot to contribute. So I'm going to ask you to just summarize that question for me. And Chantal, since you're close by, could you see what you're hearing so that we can answer?
Okay, so in summary, I want to know what is the government doing for students who are doing the one-year course where they're doing an NVQG and City and Guilds, which will matriculate into an occupational associate degree, which is for 2 years after. That would make them in the course for 3 years. What is the government doing in helping them to pay for the third year, seeing that they only pay for 3 years?
All right, so I heard, what's the government doing for someone who would have done 1 year of City and Guilds? I heard that part.
Yes.
What's the rest of it, please, Chantal?
NVQG.
It didn't come through clearly.
Okay, I do apologize. I think it might be internet. For students who are doing 1 year course, such as NVQJ and City and Guilds, and would matriculate into the occupational associate degree after doing the 1 year course of NVQJ and City and Guilds, will the government be paying or helping to pay for the third year?
Thank you, Daniel. So someone is going to just summarize that for us, and then we'll be able to answer. But in the interest of time, because it is getting late, we're going to answer your question, Daniel, once someone summarizes it and gets it to me. We're on YouTube. Kristen says, I think that transitioning into sixth form is a decision that should be made by the students. Most of us don't need CAPE subjects to further our career path. Well, it's not a question. She's making a statement. I think that transitioning into sixth form is a decision that should be made by the students. Most of us do not need CAPE subjects to further our career path. Okay, I get the point.
Right,
yes.
I get it. So again, students, we're going to repeat another time. We have other opportunities alongside the CAPE program, right? We have other pathways. We are not saying that everybody needs to do CAPE subjects. That is not what we're saying. Because remember, CAPE has very stringent standards. You have to have at least five CSEC subjects, including maths and English. We're not saying that every student leaving grade 5 should be in the Pathway 1 CAPE sixth form program. That is not what we are saying. We are saying we've made available 2 other programs alongside the CAPE sixth form program. We've called those programs Pathway 2, which is a technical program, and Dr. Troop read a list of what's available, and Pathway 3 is a more generalist program. So you will be assessed to determine which one of the pathways you should be on. Right? If you haven't passed any CSEC subjects, then you will be starting out on Pathway 3. As you develop in Pathway 3, you may decide that you have gotten to a level where you could switch to Pathways 2, because you can do, well, you would have decided in Pathway 3 that you can sit some CSEC subjects during the time. And passing CSEC subjects in Pathway 3 will give you an option to transition to Pathway 2 and possibly Pathway 1, depending on how well you do. It is creating opportunities, educational opportunities for all our students who would have completed fifth form or grade 11. And let me give you let me take you back a little bit into history. There was a point in Jamaica that maybe only your grandmother or your mother would know, when, if you graduated from primary school, there was not a guaranteed space for you in a high school. If you didn't pass common entrance or later another exam, technical entrance or grade 9, you would not be going to high school. Sitting here in 2021, that's hard to imagine, right? That a child leaving primary school would not be going to high school if they didn't pass these exams. But over the years, the governments, successive governments, have built out more high school spaces. And now, in 2021, every child leaving primary school is guaranteed a space in a high school in Jamaica. And that's a significant development. And so we're building on that to say to our fifth formers or our grade 11, guess what? Back in 1965 when the Education Act came into being, and in 1980 when the education regulations were promulgated, even then it was envisioned that our children would go to high school up to 19 is what the law says. But over the decades, that's not something that the education system took up and made sure that it got our students on that path. And we are saying, based on where we are in Jamaica right now, when we look at the level of education of our workforce, it is really low. And we cannot continue that way. We cannot continue to graduate students who are not certified in anything. Your job prospects are going to be poor. And so we want to get you certification in a lot of different areas. You could choose so that when you go into the world of work, you are ready. You have something on paper, documented, that you have achieved a diploma, associate's degree, that you are certified. And you can take that to other parts of the world with you, and they will accept it, depending on where you go. So students, don't be fearful. See this as opportunities for you to help you to fulfill on your potential. So nobody is saying that you have to do CAPE. That's not it. If that's what you get from the information that's out there, that is not it. So I want you to erase that from your minds. We're not saying you have to do the traditional CAPE program. We're simply saying we have created 2 other pathways for you that we believe will open up opportunities for you in terms of your career goals and even tertiary education if you so choose.
Thank you, Minister. I think Daniel was asking that should you have completed 2 years of the NCT vet, right? Does that mean, or do you now have an opportunity to get an associate degree after that?
Right. So once you do your level 2 and you are successful, you have an opportunity to apply for one of our occupational associate degrees. Yes. As long as you have up to a level 2 or a level 3, you can move into one of our occupational associate degree programs.
Thank you. All right, there's another question. You may go ahead, please.
Okay. Good afternoon, panelists. Good afternoon, panelists and audience. My name is Michael Coke, Deputy Head Boy of Kingston College. Firstly, let me reiterate the sentiments of my head boy. We do appreciate the efforts of the ministry in bridging the learning gap and preparing more high schoolers for the world of work. And as it concerns the sixth form pathway program, we appreciate the focus being placed on us as students and how we will be affected by the policy as primary stakeholders. However, my question concerns the various school administrators. In my review of this policy, it became apparent to me the body of information and knowledge these administrators would have to have and the various responsibilities that they would be tasked with, such as advising and streamlining students into their various pathways and monitoring their engagement over the sixth form period if they're at a tertiary institution. This is, of course, if their sixth form program is full.
Put the mic up just a little closer, please.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
So my question is there a deliberate, strategic, and actionable plan as it regards making the various administrators prepared to handle the successful execution of this program at their respective high schools?
So is there a plan for capacity development of our school leaders, school administrators, to ensure that the implementation of this program is a success? Thank you for that question.
I am happy that you have touched that area, because I just want to share with my students that we have started the conversation of integration, and I've been personally, Dr. Benjamin and myself, we have been personally involved in those series of discussions with our principals. So much of what we are sharing with you today came out of a series of conversations. So it's not us just being at the ministry that would have come up with everything. We are not the reservoir of knowledge. We recognize and we value the expertise within our principals. And so from 2019 to now, we have been having discussions with our principals of our high schools and our principals and presidents of our tertiary institutions. What we have presented to you and what we have been presenting to our principal is a series of conversations coming together in a formal document. So yes, our principals are aware. And as is customary, when we talk to our principals, they are the executive directors of their schools. They lead the plans. And so they integrate and converse with the other stakeholders on the ground to lead the curriculum and to manage our initiatives. We are aware that our principals have been managing programs of this nature. Of all our high schools, Minister indicated we have 171. I think we have 162 or 68 of them having actual sixth forms, which means that there is evidence that our principals are managing that and would have the capacity. A part of managing that is to invest in the senior leaders within our schools. So you are familiar with a coordinator, a senior teacher coordinator, who's an expert individual who has reduced timetable so he or she can manage the administrative opportunities attendant to this. With this additional support or opportunity of study for our students, we have also expanded that kind of support. So we have said to our principals, you can now assign another senior teacher. So not only will you have one sixth form coordinator now, you will have two sixth form coordinators. That never happened before. So that's another individual who will be trained into managing the program and will have oversight for those students who are accessing their programs elsewhere. To support that, we have indicated to our principals that we are assigning technical development officers in the ministry who will have immediate and strict focus on just the sixth form program. So our education officers who are at the back, they supervise schools generally. We are putting in an officer in each region to manage the high schools to just look at sixth form. And that individual will be liaising with the technical persons within our tertiary institutions. Within the tertiary institutions, the program has asked our presidents and principals to establish a coordinator. So here we have the tertiary coordinator. Here we have another sixth form coordinator. We have our principals and our VPs as usual. We have the education officer for the school, and we have the technical development officer who will now be assigned to carry just sixth form, carrying the administrative duties just to make sure that our students are covered, are protected, are secured, and are gaining their education.
Thank you for that answer. We turn, you're still on the floor. Go ahead, please.
Sorry, thank you for that response. Also, a general statement. We understand the urgency in implementation of this program. However, we, the students of Jamaica, respectfully suggest that the ministry, for the sake of a healthy democracy, consult with the respective sectors with inclusion of our youth to carefully implement such an important policy.
With the inclusion of?
Our youth.
Or youth, which would be you. So that's what we're doing now.
All right, thank you.
Yes? So you're saying that you'd want wider consultation to include the youth, which you'd fall in that category, before we implement in September? Is that what you're saying? Okay, so this is a part of the process, and I'm sure, and I'm going to allow the panelists to answer, but I'm sure this is not going to be the only consultation. Go ahead, Minister.
Again, we are beginning this program this year with those institutions that have indicated that they are ready, and with those students who see the value in the different programs that we've outlaid to them. Remember, we told you that last year during a pandemic, almost 6,000 students leaving grade 5th form or grade 11 came on and did the first year of the program, and 78% of them are continuing this year in the second year of the program. So we're sufficiently satisfied in terms of what we have been doing. You heard Dr. Troop talk about the additional human resources that will be made available in our schools that are ready for this. And so for the students who see this, who see the Pathways 2, Pathways 3 program, see the value of it and are ready to step forward, we are beginning with those students. And we're hoping as we go along that the program will build, because you'll begin to see the usefulness of it for your own lives. Does that answer the question? Okay. So again, if you want to do sixth form CAPE, we celebrate you. We applaud you. We're not modifying the traditional CAPE program at all. And neither are we saying that every fifth former should be doing the CAPE program. We're not saying that at all. We're saying we've created Pathways 2 and Pathways 3 for you. We'll do the assessment to help you determine which one of those is yours, and we will support you during those 2 years to ensure that you are successful and that you leave with a certificate, an accredited, you are leaving out of an accredited program, ready for the world of work with an associate's degree, Dr. Troop, or a diploma, right, a certificate or a certificate. So it's not, I want you to understand that the crisis is now. We had almost 40,000 students who completed fifth form last year. Only about 1/3 of those are going into the traditional CAPE program. Another 1/3 may be looking around now trying to figure out what other program outside of the education sector they're going to go to. And then there's another 1/3 who they've gone home. They stayed at home because they were online, and they have nowhere to go, right? They can't go into a job. What do they have? What's the kind of job you think they'll be able to get after leaving fifth form? And we're saying to those students, come back, do another 2 years. You will be more than ready for entrepreneurship, for tertiary education, for the world of work, here in Jamaica or wherever you choose to be.
Thank you, Minister. There seems to be a concern about graduation ceremonies. What about the normal high school graduation? How would that occur? And secondly, will the current grade 11 students be allowed to graduate?
Yes. You are allowed to have all your school leaving ceremonies, your whatever activity, whether it's prize giving, valedictorian, do the speeches, take the pictures, do all of that. But we're saying to you, once the lights are off and you go home into the quiet of your home, contemplating what you're going to do, consider these pathways programs at your school or at a tertiary institution that we have mapped to your school. So consider coming back to do one of those two programs. So yes, not a problem. And I'll be at many of those graduations, giving graduation speeches. But I'll be there encouraging you after you take off that cap and gown and you go back home and you start to contemplate your future. We want you to grab on to one of those opportunities. Pathway 1, Pathway 2, Pathway 3, if you're not inclined towards the K program.
Thank you, Minister. We have only 15 minutes to go, and then that's it. So I'm going to go very quickly. There was a question in the audience. We're going to try to keep the questions short, and we're going to ask the panelists to also answer well, but consider brevity. Yes, go ahead, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Joseph Morgan. I'm the president of Excelsior's Model United Nations Club, and my question is regarding the pathways, the different pathways for the sixth form program. Will international examinations such as IGC, SE, and SATs be implemented?
Or ACT, SATs, is that what you're asking? Whether or not that will come under the menu?
Those are good ideas, good suggestions that we will take on board. We're saying to you this afternoon, the education sector has to be flexible. It has to cater to your needs. You are the major stakeholders in education. You are the future workforce. And so I thank you for that idea. It's something we will consider.
Thank you.
Yeah. What's your name?
Joseph Morgan.
Morgan?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much for that question. And that's a really good question and a good thought. When I was a high school teacher a long time ago, I used to actually teach SATs and ACTs as well privately. So that's a good thought. Many of our students want to go overseas to pursue college. So that's a really good idea and worth considering. Thank you, Mr. Morgan, for that question. And we're moving nicely. Someone by the name of Mishika Jarrett has asked, how can a student who graduated in 2021 benefit from the government grant to resit the CSEC subjects that they failed if they are enrolled in the pathway program in an institution like UCC that does not do CSEC?
So for those students, as we indicated at our last town hall, that we have an opportunity built in because of the pandemic, right? For students to resit those core areas that they may not have passed with the grades 1 to 3 or the units 1 to 5 in your CAPE exam. So we are building that into the 2021-2022 academic year. But we have other institutions that you can register. You always have the opportunity to go back to your high schools to sit with your coordinator because you need to connect with your assigned student number from CXC and so forth. So we have that opportunity where we can register you through your high schools if it is that your university now does not offer the CXC subjects. But if you're in that university doing an associate degree, there is the college courses that you can do that are equivalent to the math and the language that you may not have passed at CXC. So there's an opportunity built into that program for you. So I would want you to have a discussion with your career coach at that university and they will guide you with respect to whether or not you need to do the math and English to carry on that associate degree, or you can do the preliminary courses designed in the associate programs for you that are equivalent to maths and English. So that's also an opportunity we want to put out there for those students accessing the community colleges programs and the university programs. They have built into that some substitutes for you so you can access your associate degree programs and get an opportunity. Or you can also access it through your schools. And if it is that you are not getting through that, just speak to your regional offices and we will look at a facility for you to make sure that you can access this benefit as you continue your education.
Thank you, Dr. Troop. And let me go to another question, and then we'll hear, I'm sure you want to hear Dr. Benjamin's voice. So I will give Dr. Benjamin an opportunity to ask a question, to answer or to say something. I like the idea of the program sounding good, very tactical, and meeting the various academic needs of students. Thank you. All right, there's one school in oh boy, I don't know how we're going to help with this because we don't know the name of the school, but I started reading, so I'll continue. There's one school in Westmoreland where the grades 10 and 11 students are yet to get textbook, and it's the same situation in the previous year. The school administrator instructed parents that because some students, the averages of some students are poor, they will not move to grade 11. But as soon as the ministry, all right, this is really long and I'm going to have to translate. May I just ask that you really contact the regional office, and that's in Montego Bay, or call the Ministry of Education or call the Commission 560-9272 parent and tell us specifically which school it is, and then we'll be able to address your concerns. All right? If someone is already 18, is the person eligible for the sixth form program?
Well, if that person just ended grade 11, yes.
All right.
If you just ended your grade 11 program, we are committed to supporting you. But if you have been out of school for a while, it would be wise for you to attach yourself to one of our tertiary institutions. We have given them a quota to look at, and so there are opportunities there. There are scholarship programs there, and I'm going to ask Dr. Benjamin to just talk briefly about some of our scholarship opportunities that we have available through our grants, through our MSET scholarship, and so forth that these students can access.
Thank you. Can the student opt to go to Hart instead of sixth form? Yes. Oh, she had something to add?
Yes, I want those persons who are 18 and over, there are some opportunities available that I want to make at the top.
Thank you.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. So the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information, through its Tertiary Students Assistance Program, offers students entering the tertiary sector a number of opportunities for funding. There is the Jamaica Values and Attitudes Program, where students work a certain, I think it's 200 hours, serve 200 hours in an approved institution, and the government in return pays 30% of their tuition costs. There are financial assistance grants available for up to $299,000 per student. That's available annually. And there are a set of scholarships, math education, science education, special education. We do geography. We review the areas annually to ensure that we are covering those subject areas, as Dr. Troop would have referenced earlier, where we recognize we have a challenge in terms of the number of teachers available in the system. We also have scholarships for students pursuing engineering programs at the University of Technology, the University of the West Indies, Caribbean Maritime University. So these are full scholarships. They cover tuition, boarding if required, and they provide grants for students for books annually. Once students maintain a 3.0 GPA, they are able to maintain that funding throughout their course of study. We have 100 of the engineering at UTech and 100 at CMU and 50 at UA. Over the past 4 to 5 years, we started this initiative in 2016. we would have awarded more than 700 scholarships and expended more than $2 billion in funding to students. And several of them, I think we're at about 400 of them have graduated and entered the teaching profession for those who pursue teaching degrees. The engineering programs are just in its second or third year. So these are opportunities that are available to students. There is a platform available on the ministry's website, usually opens in March of each year at the end of March. You can go on, fill out the application forms. You can fill out a form for scholarship, a form for JAMVAT, a form for grants. You're not restricted. And just ensure that you complete the application form and submit all of the relevant documentation before the closing date, which will be on the platform. I don't want to tell you what it will be for next year, because we can make adjustments based on what is taking place in the space. So that's a viable opportunity that's available to all of our tertiary students.
Thank you, Dr. Benjamin. And so I think we're at the time now where I'll give you just an opportunity to share some last thoughts, and then we will wrap up. Just to say, you really have been a very good audience. You've been attentive. I see you listening keenly, and that's really good to see. And just from on a personal note, ladies, I acknowledge you, but I really am impressed with the number of young men I see here this evening, and I have to say that. It's the first thing I noticed when I came in, and so I really want to thank you and to congratulate you for having sat through 2 hours, and also to say, spread the message. There's some big takeaways this afternoon, and I know some of your own concerns have been cleared up, but I'm going to give each person, to include our permanent secretary, just a very short time to say final thoughts. All right? Thank you so much. Nobody even nodded off, you know? Nobody nodded off. Very nice. So he has a question. He wants to say thank you. I'll give you an opportunity. You're so handsome too. I'll give you an opportunity to come and say thank you, young man. All right, so let me hear from the panelists. Starting with Dr. Benjamin.
I would just briefly want to reiterate, I think, what's the most important component of the Sixth Form Pathway Program, the opportunity for students to pursue a wide variety of options based on where they are, based on their own interests and their capabilities. The goal is to really provide each student with an opportunity to leave the secondary system with certification, whether that's you choose to do that through CAPE, or you choose to make sure you meet that standard that we use to really assess how well you've done in terms of having 5 CSEC or some technical certification, which would be your route through Pathway 2, or you ensure that if you are struggling in some particular areas, we're able to provide the support to bring you up to the standard, to allow you to transition on to further studies or the workforce. So I think that's the most important thing to remember. This is not a one-size-fits-all approach. We're trying to make sure that wherever you are, an opportunity is created for you to leave the system at a higher standard, giving you a better opportunity to launch out into life.
Dr. Troop, your 30 seconds, yes?
Seconds, I just want to say to those students who graduated last academic year, June, July, you may not have been offered a space in the traditional sixth form in your school. I am making an appeal in the event that you are interested to carry on your education. This is an opportunity for you. I'm encouraging you and your parents to reach out to our regional offices. Our officers are there to manage the conversations with our principals, be it our principals of our high schools or our principals of our tertiary institutions. But somebody is there to make that link between the two institutions for you. So reach out to our regions and get involved in your education program, now more than ever. Every child matters, no one to be left behind, especially now when it's more difficult for us to rise above this pandemic. You need to be involved in improving yourself. So get into your schools, get into our regional offices. We will make that connection for you. We owe you that, and you deserve it.
Thank you, Dr. Troop. And Permanent Secretary Acting, Mrs. Maureen Dwyer.
Thank you, Ms. Carr. The word encourage, encourage, encourage has been floating around the room. And I just want to add my voice of encouragement to you all. Minister would have outlined to you a bit of history as it relates to access in the education system. And I believe you're at a very exciting juncture where we're expanding access even more and we're improving on quality. So I encourage you to make the best of the opportunity. And if you have questions, you know we're open. So go forth and take the opportunity and do well.
Yes. Thank you, Mrs. Dwyer, Acting Permanent Secretary. And now, Honorable Fable Williams, or Minister.
Thank you, Casey. I want to leave the students here and in the virtual space with the words of poet Longfellow that said, heights of great men, and I'm going to add great women, reached and kept, were not attained by sudden flight, but they, while their companions slept, were toiling upwards through the night. And that simply means that the success that you see around you, for most people, it did not come suddenly. They worked towards it, and I'm encouraging all our students, wherever you are in Jamaica, all those who would have completed or fifth form last year, those who are in fifth form this year and going forward, to really take a look at these new opportunities that are created in the education sector for you to access higher education beyond fifth form. We believe it is going to expand your knowledge base and puts you at a place where your skill level will be that much more developed. You as a person will also be developed in terms of your analytical capabilities, your skills, and will be much more attractive when you enter the world of work. You will also have confidence to begin down the path of entrepreneurship, and during those 2 years, who knows, you may just blossom into the brightest star that you can be. And so we want you to really consider that. We hope that we have answered all the questions. We've cleared up any misinformation that existed. And again, it's the creation of opportunities that did not really exist in a structured way for you, our students. And we'd love for you to take advantage of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Minister. And just my final thoughts, just to say that I am reflecting in real time on what you as young students, as our youth, presented to us this evening. I'm thinking of the questions you asked that was so well thought out. Some of you made sure you researched before you came. And I think just looking at it, this is a promise of the future. And I'm inspired that all is not lost. You've given me, renewed my own hope. Sometimes in the system, we tend to look at everything that's not going well. But sometimes it's okay to look at some things that are going well. So I want to congratulate you. You've all represented yourselves so very well, and your schools as well. So congratulations on that, your school. I'm really, really proud. You spoke so well, and I'm really pleased. I'm a stickler for grammar and just presenting well, and you sounded so good. So thank you so much. You know, there were some takeaways. What have we learned? Our minister did take us on an educational journey this afternoon. She talked to us about what existed in the time of your grandparents, perhaps, and where we are now, and the importance of ensuring that we have under this wide menu opportunities for every single student. We know that the sixth form program is nothing new. We've always had sixth form, right? Yes? Right, it's not new. But what I'm hearing is that perhaps we had a splintering of programs. So you had the career advancement program, you had the Center of Occupational Studies, and you had the sixth form and many other things. People going on to Teachers College like I did. And what we're trying to do is to pull everything under one umbrella to ensure that we're accounting for everybody and we're providing for everybody, not just those persons who are going to access a regular sixth form, but those who might need a little help along the way, because you know, everybody doesn't develop at the same pace. Agreed? Right, some are going to cape immediately, but some will need a little more hand-holding. And what we're saying, they too are important. They're important to us, and we must provide them with the opportunity so they too can excel, so that by the time they're finished, they're well prepared, either for additional studies or for the world of work. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to ensure that we're seeing every single child, because let's face it, you literally are the future, as cliche as it sounds, yes? And we have to make sure we're preparing you properly. I am inspired. You know, I'm glad I came this afternoon, and that I feel so honored to have been asked to moderate. And you look so bright to me, and I'm going to hold on to your faces. I'm really looking at each of you because I'm going to watch out for you. And I know you're going to be great examples of what Jamaica and Jamaicans are supposed to be. Congratulations, principal and teachers, and well done, students. I'm so proud, so pleased. Thank you.
Good.
Yes.
Good afternoon to us again. On behalf of the student population of Excelsior High School, as well as the staff population, I want to express my gratitude towards the Ministry of Education for gracing us with their presence, as well as to take the time out to inform us and to further educate us about this new initiative. We appreciate that so much. As well as I want to thank the students of Excelsior High School and the students of Kingston College for taking the time out to be here. And so I want to encourage us to continue to stand tall and shine bright like diamond. Thank you.
You see what I mean? Yes, so well done. So nice, very good. Thank you so much, Excelsior High School, for having accommodated this second town hall. You've been really kind. Thank you to OCM Production for broadcasting, for streaming. The lights are hot. Woo. Thank you, Antoinette Aiken, for providing the signing services, because we can't say we're promoting inclusion and we're leaving out a segment of the population. We have to make sure we make efforts to communicate to everybody. And thank you so much, panelists, and those persons who have supported us in the online or the virtual space. Have a really good evening, everybody. And please remember to take the vaccination. Please remember to sanitize, be social but physically distant, and continue on with your learning. Education is here for everybody. Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening. God bless.